Um, I studied architecture at U of T before coming to Guelph, and I learned this before I learned AutoCAD. So it is a lot like AutoCAD if you guys have been learning it in your construction class, but it is a lot different at the same time. Um, so I'm just gonna quickly go over what we're gonna talk about today, and then in the shorter tutorial next week. I do realize that some of you have a background in architecture. I'm not sure if that's the case, but you might be familiar with a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about today, and that's okay. It is meant to be quite basic. So we're just going to go through a quick intro. We're going to navigate through the software, learn a little bit of the basics, some trees, some contours, stairs, furniture, and then at the end, I'm going to go through importing the Yorkville base file and then scaling it so that you can be precise with your work. And then we'll trace like a tiny little section. And then I'm going to show you how to extrude those things. And then I also added at the end how to import a DWG file. So that's like an AutoCAD file. How to import a PDF to scale. So if you have like existing contours or something like that, I'll show you how to bring that in. And then same thing with an Illustrator file. If you've been like drawing in Illustrator, you can bring that one into Rhino as well. So just quickly, what is Rhino? This is a very basic, description of what I think it is and what you can use it for. It's a 3D modeling software, and it is being more widely used in landscape architecture. It's a lot like SketchUp, but it produces more organic shapes. It uses a lot of math to calculate like the surfaces and the curves and things like that. And it can be used similar to AutoCAD. It has similar commands. It can be used for producing 3D or 2D drawings from your 3D drawings, which is why I really love it. And it can be used to develop quick sketch models. And then there's also these things called plugins. Now, there's a lot of them. I'm not going to go over them, but I just want you to know that they exist. So a few of those that you might be interested in. There's a bunch of YouTube tutorials online if you are interested in learning how to do this. There's something called Lands Design. So for my project, you'll see over here that because I already had a basic foundation of like how to use Rhino, I wanted to try it and learn how to use Lands Design. So that's what I did for the my partner and I's project. But if you're just starting out, I don't recommend jumping into something like this for the sake of your own education. And also, it kind of produces like very colored models. You can't really turn it into all one like white material or something. So it looks a lot messier than what I would normally want. So just so that you know that that exists, I think there is a free trial that you're able to take advantage of. And then there's another thing called Grasshopper. It's used a lot in like parametric design. It's very iterative, and that's I don't I'm not really like super familiar with Rhino or Grasshopper anymore, but if you want to create things like, like a cool bench or different types of like surfaces or facades or, landforms, it's a great tool to use. And then
Just let
there's
me
some,
jump there. Sorry,
yeah,
with
you
with
go
the
for it.
bunch, yeah, with the
Yeah.
bench. This is like if you see the one she has there. This is something that Chris Reed used for that Harvard Plaza design. They use Grasshopper to create and fabricate those benches. So if you go back to that kind of quick slide deck that I had of the predominant landscape architects, one of their projects was at Harvard Plaza. And they did use these kind of sinuous chairs or these sinuous seating elements. And Grasshopper was the tool that was used. And then they're allowed to fabricate it. Like you could actually take the components apart and bring it to a fabricator to cut them out into kind of these slices or these pieces.
Yeah, and then there's also something called Ladybug, and it's like an environmental analysis tool. Again, I have never used this one, but it does exist and it is really cool. So just so that you know that those things are there. So I'm just going to show you quickly the Yorkville model that I did. You can see that so this was kind of a process of we sketched it out on trace paper, then we put it into Rhino, and then I printed it out again, and you can see that we're just, notating over it. And then we brought it back in, and then I was able to, create this model. And then from, you're already doing all of the work in Rhino, so you can um, put that to good use and use it as the base for your plans. And then you can also take section cuts across any important, features of your site. And then you can bring that into Illustrator and make it look a lot nicer than what Rhino generally spits out. And then you can see that you can use them as a perspective base. And then, so we captured that. And then my partner went in and she did all of these really beautiful renderings of the site. And so these two are kind of just how I used Rhino throughout the rest of the program. This is for the community design class. We didn't have to make a model, but I really just wanted it for making the axonometric, and then also to use as bases to create these perspective rendering. So I just used basic circles to get the diameter and the height of the canopy. And then same thing here. You can also find these DWGs online of like existing things like cars and stuff. But be careful when you do download these free things. Have an antivirus software if you're not sure how reputable those things are. And then this is the big group project for community design. We had to make a form model of the built form and then the context just to see how it would relate. We were given this big wealth drawing from AutoCAD of all of the built form. And then we did this in AutoCAD and then we brought it in just to see how we could make these buildings flow. And then again, I just took a basic screenshot of one of the important areas, and then I created this kind of perspective. And then again, we took a section through the model and we were able to create sections. So that's just kind of a little bit of where you can take this. We'll be talking about how to capture these things in the second tutorial. So how to take a section cut, how to take a perspective base, and then how to do an axonometric, and perhaps an exploded axonometric. I can show you how to do that as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna shift into Rhino now. Oops.
So
Okay.
as she's opening that up, are there any questions about that? So you could see how you could use Rhino for basically all your needs. You could use it for the plan creation from a sketch. You could use it to create the section lines and then basically the base for some of the perspectives that you could bring into Photoshop or into Illustrator. So that's great that you could use it for many, many tools. Okay.
Sorry.
I have a question, a quick one. So you said you
Okay, so this is Rhino. You can see here that we have four windows. So this one is your top view, this one is your perspective view, and you can, orbit by holding down your right clicker. You can also see up here that you can do things like up here as well. You can pan, you can zoom. You can also zoom with your scroll function. And then you can also see that we've got like an X, Y, and Z plane. So this here is your Y plane, this is your X plane, and then right here would be 0, 0. So think of it like a Cartesian map. That's just important to know if you're drawing here or if you're drawing somewhere up here. when you go to export it, you're gonna want to like export selected, and then you create your base point, and then it'll spit it out. But I'll show you that later. Um, and then you've got your front view and your right view. So I'm just gonna quickly show you what I mean by these things. Okay. So I've got this box now, and you can see that this is it on its right side, looking this way. This is it from the front, and this is obviously the top. In here, you can change the way that things look. So that's a rendered view. It shows up as plaster. You can also change the material of those things, but right now you don't really need to do that. Say you accidentally shift your right view and you're like, uh-oh, like that's not like the perfect like plane. You can come down here to set view, and then this was the right, so you just click right and then it'll pop it back for you. So yeah, you can see that there's different ways that you can view each window. Up here is your command line. You can just start typing. It's like AutoCAD, and then you can like just put in your commands and then press enter. There's a layers tab over here. So this is your properties. So this is the property of this box. You can change the layer like in AutoCAD through the properties. This is your layers tab. You can create a new layer by doing this. And you want to name them, you want to keep your trees on one layer, you want to keep your roads on another layer, so on and so forth. Okay, and then up here is like your file. You can open things, similar to like AutoCAD and Illustrator and stuff. And then over here is your toolbox. These are like the commands. So if you don't really remember any of the commands, you can come over here. So like things like curves and like polylines, similar to AutoCAD. And then down here, you can see that there's, an ortho mode that you can click on and off to help you draw at like 90 degrees. Planar helps you, so say you want to start drawing on the bottom of this. You want to keep it all on one plane. None of these points will, go up in space. So they'll all be like very flat. Let's see, there's O-snap, similar to AutoCAD. You can turn things on and off depending on what you want to do. Sorry, there's a truck outside. Let's see here. And then there's this thing called Gumball, and I love her. She helps you move things around. You can rotate. You can make things bigger. You can extrude them. You can move them up and down. So say I want this to be 5 meters in the sky. You can do that. You can also duplicate things. So if you hold down Alt and then, shift it like this, that's duplicating it. It's basically just a more intuitive way to like run commands without running those commands. And then if you are lost in your model and you can't find it, there's this thing called zoom extents. It's similar to AutoCAD, and then you just press E for extents. You can see at the top here that it's asking you, if you have something selected, you can do that as well. But I'm just gonna click E and then it brings you back. Oops. And then E, and then it'll bring you back that way. Okay, so now we're just gonna go through a few more really basic things, and then we'll go into ISIS. So every single one of these boxes is 1 meter because I've set the units to 1 meter. You can change this. So you can type in units, and then you have your model units here. and then you can select anything, but I normally just draw in meters. And I would, encourage you to draw in meters, and then when you go and export things, it's very simple to do it that way. Okay, so a few more things. You can create something called a surface from just your plain line work by typing in planar surf. So you can see how it's spelled right there. And then now you can see that it is its own surface. But there's also a command over here that you can create a surface from, 2 or 3 points. Down here, I'm going to click on grid snap so that I can snap to this grid point. And if you hold down shift, even if you're not in ortho, that'll bring you back to ortho. And then you can create, surfaces from there. And then to create a poly surface, which is more than one surface, if, to create a box or something from this, planar surface, you can extrude your curves and you can extrude your surfaces. And because this is a surface, we need to type in extrude surface. And then you can set the height. See how at the top it's like extrusion distance 4. You can type in any number. So say I want that to be 10 meters. And then you've got, a perfect box with the height. And then you can also type in, say if you want this to be, 5 meters by 5 meters, you type in 5 and then 5. And then this is 5 by 5. Okay, so I'm gonna open up my other Rhino here in just a second. And we're gonna start building some trees with some basic 3D commands. So share.
Yes.
Yep, okay. Let me just move this. Okay. So you can see that I've kind of started building things, and we're gonna go through how to make every single one of these things today. There we go. So we're gonna start with cones and trying to make the base of, a tree, and then yeah, then we'll move into like just a pyramid and then pipe. And then I'll show you a few other cool commands. So to start with the cone, you can type in cone, or I'm just gonna work over here. So you can type in cone, or you can go over here and find it where the box is. So say if this is a tree stump, it's asking me for a diameter, so I want it to be a diameter of, 1. And then say because it's a tree, I want it to be 15 meters high. Maybe that's a bit too tall. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just make this bigger or smaller by holding down shift and using the gumball. Okay. And then so you can see nothing's really happening right now there. And then you can duplicate this guy, and then you can make it smaller again. And then I'm going to go into my front view, and then I'm just going to quickly move this over. I kind of want to make this a bit smaller. Okay, so you can see at the top that you've got one of these, and then the front, you can see that it's like out to the side, and then if you use your perspective to toggle. So I'm just going to quickly press Alt and then use the gumball, shift this around. And then I want this to be, not at the same height, so I'll move it up. Now this isn't going to be perfect this is just an example. But yeah, so you can, if you decide that you want to see more of your ground plane, I definitely would suggest, keeping it just a simple like tree form with no vegetation on top, because if you have a lot of vegetation, you can't really see the like you can't really see the ground plane. So if you do want to just show it in its winter form, you can definitely do that. But say you do want to show it with like a canopy, you can create just one circle and put that guy on top. Or sorry, sphere. So I'm going to hold down the shift key so that it turns out to be a perfect circle. Oops. I'm going to use this top view here so that I can center it, and then move it up. And I'm just going to make her a little bit wider. So you can see that there's, you can see a little bit of the branches there. And then if you want to create something more of like a bubble effect of the canopy, you can use your spheres again. I'm gonna just copy and paste this guy with the gumball. Here, I'll just go in here. You can make things smaller or bigger. And then you can copy and paste. Rotate it if you feel like it. Okay, so let's just pretend. Oops. And okay, so yeah, let's just pretend that I am in love with how this looks. And then you can just put it, hold on, I'm just delete these. But you can see how you can start to create, a canopy with just some simple bubbles, like that. Okay, so you deciduous tree. You can just make a simple cone the way that I showed you earlier. But if you want to be more fancy, you can use just smaller cones. So I'll show you just quickly how to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna just start working in my top view right now. So let's say I want this to be, it's asking for a diameter. So say I want this to be 10. Press enter. That's a big tree, but anyways. And then any height right now. And then again, using your gumball, you click it, you hold Alt, and then you move it up. And then what you can do is you can hold Shift and then make it a little bit smaller. Again, holding Alt down, making it smaller with Shift, holding Alt down, holding Shift, and yeah, so there you go. You've got a basic deciduous tree made out of cones, and then you can do the same thing with some pyramids. So and then again, hold Alt. You can also shift it around if you want it to look a little bit more organic. again, just for fun. And there you go. So, and that's another basic way to, just show a deciduous tree. So next, I'm going to show you how to use the pipe command to kind of create a little bit more of a whimsical, deciduous tree. You can use the pipe command to do a lot of things. So we're just going to start in our front view. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create just like a squiggle. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in pipe. And it's asking me for the base. So this base down here and how thick I want that to be. So it's a radius. So I want it to be 0.5 so that it's 1 meter across. Actually, I want that to not be 0.5. I want it to be 0.25. Pipe. 0.25. Okay, and then you can either make it smaller or you can just also put it as 0.25. That's up to you and how you want your tree to look. And then it's asking for a next radius, but there is none for what I want it to do. So, oops. Okay, and then what you can do is similar to how we used those cones earlier. You can, now this is just a thick tree, but you can manipulate it in your front view. And then in your top view, just try and set it in the center. This is a very thick, hold on. Very thick tree. But anyways, you get the idea. Oops, hold on. Move it up and down. Oops. So on and so forth. So that's how you can kind of start to create a tree using pipes, but this one is obviously looking a little bit nicer, but that's how you can do that. And then if you wanted to add the bubbles again, you can just do the same kind of formation that way. Just delete this. And then so let's move on to bushes and some grass here. Let me just put this in rendered for a second just so that you can see what these look like. So again, using your bubbles, you can just leave it like this if you want. Or you can use a command called drape. So let's go. I'm just going to use this as an example because it already is there. Okay, oops. Holding Alt. Okay. So in your top view, you want to type in drape. And then it wants you to drag a window over top. So you just do something like that. And then let me just move these out of the way. So you can see here that it's got this sort of like, it's like taking a blanket and draping it over, an object. You can do this to create like landforms or, like say a rock or something. This also kind of looks like a willow tree. But you can see that it's got this like surface on it. And I want to remove that surface. So What you can do is you can create a surface to use as like a pair of scissors or like trim. Trim is similar to the one in AutoCAD. Um, so you can see here in this right view that this is about 2 meters, and that's okay for a tree or a bush or something, a small bush. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type in trim, and it's asking me to select a cutting object. So that would be this guy. And then object to trim, and that would be, oop, sorry, that would be this. I'm trying to get rid of the bottom part. Okay. And then you can select that surface, delete it because you don't need that anymore. Okay, and then you've got this bush, and then you can see at the bottom here that it is open. So if you have any sort of poly surface that you're trying to like have it closed, what you want to do is you want to click it and type in cap. Okay, and then you can see now that this bottom part is closed. And while people aren't seeing it because it's on the bottom of your model, you know, it's something that you should know about in case, you have something on the surface that you don't want people to see in. If it's a planter, that's great, you can keep it open, but if you don't want something that's open, you just cap it. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to some grass. So say you want to have like some long wispy grass. Um, what you can do is you can go into surface, and I'm in my front view right now, so that I'm working in like up and down. And then you just you press enter after you're happy with it. And then what you can do is you can hold down Alt again, manipulate each thing to make it a little bit more organic. Alt. Okay, and then I'm gonna just copy and paste these over. So you can see, you can leave it like that, or you can just select things and move them back and forth so that they have a little bit more depth. I'm just doing this kind of randomly here. But yeah, so then you can just keep copying and pasting this by like holding down the Alt. And yeah, that's how you kind of make some grass. Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about contours and some stairs. So this method we'll be using patch, and it kind of works a little bit better if you have a closed surface. Some contours, like for example, they might just end like that or something. And they aren't closed. So you would want to go in and, close it so that this patch would work a little bit better. So I'm just going to quickly draw out a few shapes. If you have an existing contour map, you can also use those lines and do it the same kind of way. You can also use this to make something like a rock or like a berm. Um, oh, and it's like AutoCAD where you can press the space bar, and it will repeat the command, so um, you don't have to keep typing in your command. Okay, so I'm just going to create a bounding box here. Let's put us in. You can't really see that way. Let's see right here. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to elevate these contour lines. I want to give them height. I want to assign them their appropriate height. So I'm going to assume that this is 0. So that would mean everything in between is at a height of 0. And then I want this one to be a mountain, and I want this one to be a pond or something. So what you can do is you use your gumball and you click 1. So that guy is going to be at 1 meter tall. This one is going to be at 2, and you can do this at different intervals, so 0.25, 0.5, whatever you want. And then this one, I'm going to assign it a -1. This one's -2. This is -3. And this one is -4. Okay. So you can see in this right view that we've got our heights assigned. And now I'm just gonna put that. And now I'm gonna type in patch. Okay. And you can alter the stiffness here. I'm just gonna leave this at 3. And then you can kind of see that it's giving you this sort of the form. Okay. So next, we're going to do some stairs, and you can also use this next method for your stair or for your contours. If you don't mind like having like a stepped version, but then you can also do what Nadia mentioned, and you can drape over this sort of form. So we're just going to create a bounding box. And then I'm just gonna draw a curve. And because we're imagining that these are steps, I kind of want them to be uniform. So there's this tool called offset, and it's the same as the one in AutoCAD. And so I want this to be a distance of 1 meter apart, let's say. So I click that, and then you press enter. And then you can just click the next one, space bar, because you've just used it. Click the next one, space bar, so on and so forth. Okay, and then I want to get rid of these extra bits at the end, so I'm gonna type trim. Okay. So there we go. And now I want to make this base a planar surf, so I'm going to type in planar surf. Okay. And now I want each of these to turn into their own surface. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split. So it's like trim, but it leaves the remainder behind. So I'm going to type in split. Select object to split, and that would be this base. Click enter. And then you select your cutting objects. So these would be your cutting objects. Enter. And then now you've got each of these are their own surface. So say I want this one to be 0.5 meters. I want to extrude this because I want it to be a step that's closed. So extrude surf. And then I'm going to type in 0.5. Okay. And if it appears and it's like not closed like this, you would click cap, but this one's closed. Okay, extrude, and this one would be 1 meter. Okay. And then this one, oops. extrude. One 1.5. Surface extrude. Surf 2. And now say I don't want this to be here anymore. You can just delete it. Or if you want it to be, you know, a stage or something, you could also just do the same thing. Extrude surf 2.5. Okay. So you can do this as well for your contours. They would just look more like steps. And then again, you can use your drape afterwards. I'm just gonna check my time here. So we're about halfway through. Are we okay to keep going or do we need a break?
Maybe finish those little two
Yeah,
thingies there and then we'll take a
okay.
break.
Sounds good. Okay, so let's see. So this is just a very basic bench and a very basic chair. So what you want to do is in the right view or the front view. What I'm going to do is I'm just gonna rotate this 45 degrees so you can, 90 degrees so that you can see what I'm talking about. So what you can do is you can use your polyline. And if you have exact dimensions, you want to be precise with this. I'm going to put ortho mode on. You can say, like, say you want this to be 0.75 of a meter tall, you would click that. And if you want this to be like, I don't know, like 13 or something. You know, if you have exact measurements, you would use those at every single you know, point here. But I don't have the exact measurements, so we're just gonna pretend. Oh, here's another thing. If you want this to, you know, eventually match up, what you can do is you can just scroll over this point and then it will go perpendicular. So if you have perpendicular selected in your OSNAP, like that will help you make sure that it's like the same height if you're not using like selected heights. And then now this is just line work, so we're gonna extrude this. Oops. It's not a surface, it's a curve extrude. Curve. Okay, and then let's just say I want it to be this thick. Okay, so you can get rid of this line. And you can see that it extrudes it across this line. So you can use a box as a cutting tool. And we're going to do something called a Boolean difference. So this is not like precise in any way, but if you know all of these dimensions, you can create a box that is this, you know, void area. So this is called Boolean difference. You type in Boolean. Oops, if I could type Boolean difference. Enter, and it's asking for a polysurface to subtract from. So that would be this thing. Enter, and then it's asking for a second polysurface, which would be this box. And I didn't you can see that I didn't have it wide enough. So let's try that again. Boolean. Oops. Boolean. Hold on. Escape. Boolean difference. Subtract with this one, and then there we go. So you can see that it's now got its the void space in there. Okay, so moving on to this guy here. Again, you want to work in your right view or your front view. I'm just going to put on grid snap really quickly. Say I want this to be 0.13. Okay, I'm just going to draw 0.13. And then, oops, 0.13. Oops. Okay. And then again, similar, you've got this front view now that you can extrude this. Oops, if I could tightly extrude curve and turning off grid snap. And then you've got your bench. So pretty simple. You just start from a 2D surface and you extrude it that way. So I'm just going to quickly show you how I would make the form for something like those Victorian houses across from the Yorkville site. So again, working in your grid or your front view, say you want this to be, so if it's a 2-story building, it would be at least 6. So I would say, 7.5 to account for the roof or something, like whatever. If you know these exact dimensions, like you would put that in there. And then because I'm in ortho mode now, I want to like snap out of ortho mode. So I'm just clicking shift. And then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, it's like halfway in between. Okay, so it's not even on a grid. Okay, let's just pretend that that's precise. Okay. And then you would extrude that again. Oops, extrude curve. Okay, so you've got your building now, and say you don't want to just leave it as a simple form. I mean, I did for mine, but say you do want to identify where these views are because it is important to know like how people will be seeing your site from windows. So if you do want to create balconies or windows, you can use this method. If you don't have exact uh like dimensions of each window, you can always like just approximate and guess based on scale. But if you do know, and if you do want to be precise, you have that choice as well. But I'm just working without an exact thing in mind. So what I will do is I will just guess. So what I want to do is I want to hold down Alt. And let's just, oops, that didn't work. Okay. And then I'm gonna, oops, take this extrusion and this extrusion, holding down shift so that I can select multiple items, and then hold down Alt, hold down Alt again. Okay. And then we're gonna do Boolean difference again. So and then we're subtracting with these. Okay. And you can see that you can create windows or like doors or something like that. This also is useful for if you want to create your own subway shelter or if you're just going to leave the subway shelter the same. Again, that is up to you. So we are at, I think, an hour now. I'm good to take a break.